Hello, I'm Josh Wood. I'm the Director of Maths here at the Gainsborough Academy. Tonight we're going to be having a look at some of the key aspects of the GCSE Maths course, so let's get started. So the course structure, we split our course into two distinct parts. The first is the 2-year GCSE course, where we are covering all of the content within the syllabus, assessing students regularly in order to build a profile for each student and work out their strengths and weaknesses. And that feeds into Year 11, where we review the core skills needed for that success at GCSE level. It depends on the ability profile of the class and the student, because as you can imagine, students that are aiming towards a grade 4 will have a completely different set of needs in terms of key skills from students who are aiming towards maybe a grade 7. Now, because of that, that means that when we come to Year 11, different students will maybe have different skills that they are reviewing, but that is all based on sort of the profile of the class and the learner and the information that we've picked up by assessing them through Year 9 and Year 10. The content of the course has 6 main areas, and people who've studied maths before will probably be quite familiar with these. So number skills, ratio and proportion, algebra, geometry, statistical measures and probability. There are 3 different types of question. So AO stands for assessment objective. Assessment Objective 1 questions are all about applying standard techniques. So these are very simple and straightforward questions where students are required to apply standard methods that they've been taught in class to a very straightforward and one-dimensional problem. Notice that these make up most of the questions on the foundation paper, with 50% of the questions, so half of the paper being these very straightforward questions. Assessment Objective 2 and 3 questions, there are less of them, but they are more challenging. Assessment Objective 2 questions are all about real life problems, contextual problems, the idea of being able to reason with sort of real life scenarios and communicate answers effectively. Assessment Objective 3 questions are all about stage problems. So an example of this would be maybe a geometry problem that uses some skills from algebra as well. So they are layered problems that require learners to apply those standard techniques, but from various different areas of mathematics, and decide which tools to pick from their mathematical toolbox. The types of grades and the tier entry that students can be expecting. So there are 2 tiers in mathematics. There's a higher tier and a foundation tier, which isn't necessarily the case in all GCSE subjects. Higher tier students have got access to a grade 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9, and in foundation they've got access to a 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. You'll notice there that there is an overlap between grade 4 and grade 5 for both the higher and the foundation tier, and discussions about tier entry are generally made in Year 11 about which tier would be most appropriate and which tier would allow the student to have the best success in the final exam. Here there's some information about the different types of grade. So grade 4 is what's regarded as a standard pass. If a student doesn't achieve a grade 4 by the end of Year 11, then GCSE Maths is something that they are expected to continue studying until the age of 18, as required by the government. Grade 5 is what's called a good pass, and this is often the benchmark that employers and colleges require students to get to in order to be able to follow certain paths of study. This could be at college, this could be getting onto apprenticeships or into certain areas of employment. Grade 7 is sometimes required by colleges and universities for students who want to study courses that have got a high level of mathematics. It is sometimes the case that students decide not to study very much in the way of mathematics beyond GCSE, maybe at the level of college, but then when they go off to university they find that a requirement is that they have a grade 7 in maths. So you may well not do, because it is quite early, Year 8 and Year 9, but if you do have an idea of what you want to sort of achieve or what you want to go on and do once you've finished Year 11, and in terms of things like future career, it's well worth checking what sort of like what your path in terms of future qualifications or future employment may require. Keys for success, there are essentially 3 things that we would advise. So the first is always asking for help. So this idea of students are absolutely expected to make mistakes in lessons. It is all part of the learning process, and we 100% ask students to be able to sort of in some capacity turn around and say, I've got this wrong, and be okay with that, because making mistakes is how we learn and how we sort of adapt our sort of approach to different skills and things. Making use of the resources, so students won't be very familiar with MathWatch or Pinpoint Learning yet, but as they progress through the GCSE syllabus and course, they will become more familiar with them. There are online software tools that we make use of in order to try and help build a profile for both the students themselves, but also for us. A profile of skills of what students are good with and what students aren't good with, and it also provides them with a lot of extra resources to help them with their independent study. Turning up well equipped to lessons is something that we always advise, so the idea of having their own equipment and being comfortable with their own equipment really does make a difference. In particular, calculators are something that is an investment that if you don't have one now, getting yourself a calculator and then getting familiar with all of the different functions of it will help you no end. We advise Casio calculators, but there are several other manufacturers out there. Essentially, if you've got your own calculator and you know where all the functions and things are on them, that makes you feel a lot more comfortable when you get into a situation where you need to use it, compared with maybe borrowing one from somebody else. I still have my calculator from when I was at school, so calculators are an investment that do stand the test of time if you look after them. Obviously, my email address is there, and if you have got any other questions that you maybe forget to ask tonight, or you sort of think of an extra question once tonight is finished, and you want to email me, then feel free to do so, and I'm quite happy to correspond with you via email, or if you would prefer me to phone, I can make time and then I can give you a ring and we can talk through some of the aspects of the course.